Okay, we'll get started now. Thank you for joining us for a year later, advancing the hydrogen workforce for Edmonton Region's Hydrogen Hub. Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Lakeman. I'm the director for the Hydrogen Initiative at Edmonton Global, and Edmonton Global is one of the partners in the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. So very happy to be here today to be part of this webinar. Before we begin, the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We encourage everyone watching to reflect on the territory, territories, and people where you live and work. This webinar is part of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub's webinar series on building a low-carbon hydrogen economy in the Edmonton region. These monthly conversations are meant to provide industry, government, and investors with the knowledge and tools they need to take advantage of the Edmonton region's potential for low-cost, low-carbon hydrogen and to contribute to the development of this new energy system. You can see our past webinars on our website at erh2.ca, and this presentation will be available there tomorrow. So if you find it valuable, be sure to share it with your colleagues. For information and updates about future webinars, be sure to join our mailing list and follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn. And I know Ashley from the Hydrogen Hub will be putting those links into the chat. Today's topic, a year later, advancing the hydrogen workforce for Edmonton Region's Hydrogen Hub. It's been almost a year since the Transition Accelerator released Pat Hufnagel-Smith's report assessing the workforce required to advance Canada's hydrogen economy. Since then, the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub has made continued progress in developing hydrogen supply and demand as an essential component of the clean energy system. And from my organization's perspective at Edmonton Global, we are very much focused on attracting investment and pursuing economic development. And we know the workforce is really one of the key considerations for any company looking to make investments. So this is a really important topic for Edmonton Global and for other hub partners. This webinar will take a closer look at the work done over the past year to develop the workforce that will enable our region's future hydrogen economy. We're pleased. We're joined by the author of that report, Pat Hufnagel-Smith, along with two experts from the world of post-secondary education, Dr. Agatha Ajimalukwe from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, or NATE, as many of you know, and Kathleen Couturier from Lakeland College. Pat Hufnagel-Smith is a partner at Creative Links International Incorporated, with over 20 years consulting experience offering expertise on assignments focused on social factors associated with energy development. She specializes in providing insights into the dynamics of Canada's energy labor market, explore emerging trends and occupations and workforce requirements. Kathleen Couturier has been with Lakeland College for the last 9 years. She has over 20 years of experience in administration, coordination, and graphic design. Kathleen's focus at Lakeland is coordinating the Sustainable Energy Technology Diploma and Micro-Credential programs. Dr. Agatha Ajimalukwe is the Portfolio Manager of Energy and Environment Programs and Industry Solutions at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, or NATE. Agatha leads the development and continuous improvement of programs focused on enabling the reskilling and upskilling of professionals in the energy and environment sectors, and works in partnership with industries to build tailored courses that meet their needs. She holds a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees in the applied sciences, has over 7 years of experience in post-secondary teaching, research, and leadership, and is a certified project management professional. Throughout the presentation, please put your questions in the Q&A box, and we will get to them later on the webinar. Please use the Q&A box for questions only, rather than the chat box, as this helps keep everything in one place. If you like someone's question, feel free to upvote it, and this will help us determine the order that questions will be addressed. Now, over to you, Pat, and thank you all for joining us today.
Great. Thanks, Brent. I'm just going to pull up a presentation here. And hopefully that works as need be. Are we good? Everybody sees? Yep. Excellent. Perfect. So yes, thanks, Brent, so much. I'm really pleased to be here as part of this webinar. I'm just going to spend a few minutes setting some context for the panel conversation and then the Q&A opportunities as well. But I did want to just share some of the key findings associated with the study that I did on behalf of the Transition Accelerator. As I said, to provide some of that context for the panel discussion. The original intent of the work research related to advancing the workforce for the Edmonton, Canada's hydrogen economy, sorry about that, was really to kind of set a foundation in terms of understanding what are the occupations that will be required by the hydrogen supply and demand value chains, and then what might be some of the talent opportunities and or challenges that Canada might face in terms of ensuring that there's the workforce required to advance Canada's hydrogen economy. And so, by with those two objectives, the idea was that we could springboard this particular study for other work and accelerate work related to the hydrogen workforce. So it's very, I'm very pleased to be part of this and to be able to chat with, both Nate and Lakeland College in terms of how they've really kind of picked up that mantle and are moving forward in terms of advancing the workforce. We're going to spend some time, we're going to kind of focus on what's happening here in the Edmonton region, but there certainly is other work that's happening across Canada in terms of looking at developing the hydrogen workforce. So just, kind of quickly, I think that, one of the key findings was that we have a tremendous opportunity to leverage the existing expertise in our labor market to advance hydrogen. And this is particularly true in the Edmonton region, who is already, one of the Canada's leading producers and users of hydrogen. So we have a lot of expertise already in terms of how to produce, operate with, and that technical expertise related to using hydrogen safely. And so certainly as we look to expand our hydrogen economy, also need to expand the hydrogen workforce. But again, a lot of it is not necessarily, starting from scratch, because the core technical occupations that required by hydrogen are really found with some of the foundational technical training that already exists here. So rather than, starting from scratch and creating a hydrogen engineer, for example, or a hydrogen instrumentation tech, it really is augmenting the skills of the existing workforce delivered by our existing training ecosystem, with an understanding of how to work with, operate, design with hydrogen, and so that opportunity is certainly here. Even from, if we talk about some of the emerging occupations, such as, say, fuel cell electric vehicle mechanic, which, is fuel cells is the technology that's used for transportation using hydrogen. Those kinds of skills still rely on the foundational mechanical skills that we're delivering to our workforce today. So from the, from a worker's perspective, what this really means is that there's tremendous opportunity to build a resilient energy career, because those that are currently working in what we would say are traditional energy, utility, or even transportation sectors can bolt on or add on to the skills they already have, and that will help qualify them to work within the energy or within the hydrogen sector as well. The other key finding was that there's a number of occupations that are required to really build out the ecosystem that is required to achieve the desired pace of change related to advancing our hydrogen economy. And so those are occupations that help to build and implement the business, regulatory, and fiscal environments that are needed to encourage investment and within hydrogen. This includes occupations that are really focused on assessing and mitigating, environmental and social impacts related to building out the hydrogen economy. Certainly, the safety aspect related to hydrogen. Hydrogen is no more or less safe than other fuel sources, but it is different. And so we need to understand what that is, what the differences are, and how do we ensure that when we're deploying or operating with hydrogen, it's safe. And so those are a lot of inspector kinds of occupations where we're proactively monitoring and ensuring safety. And then finally, hydrogen, like any other sort of industry today, is going to be looking at trying to take advantage of the latest digital technology. And so obviously those digital occupations are also part of the overall hydrogen ecosystem and key to building out our hydrogen demand and supply value chains. So I think, what another key finding associated with the workforce and the workforce requirements is that really that there are talent shortages that already exist within these core occupations that have been listed on the last two, the previous slide and this one. So it's not only about, ensuring the skills are there and augmenting, the skills within our existing workforce to be able to work in hydrogen, but it's also making sure there's enough of those workers that are receiving that foundational training to also be able to fill the need that will be required by increasing demand by the hydrogen industry. I think the other thing that is that was a key finding is that the skills that are needed within the hydrogen workforce really go beyond the technical skills. To responsibly advance hydrogen, and this is true for any climate solutions, at an accelerated pace, we need to be innovative and we need to collaborate. And in some ways, that's quite different than perhaps what we've worked in some of our industries, especially those that are perceived to be, to have some risk, that, that innovation and collaboration doesn't necessarily happen the way we're going to need to in order to accelerate climate solutions. And so there's these what we call soft skills that also are required, layered on to the technical skills that are required, that are needed within hydrogen. And I would say, I think, while we need innovation and collaboration, I think one of the really refreshing findings in the report was that collaboration and innovation is already happening. It's very interesting to see companies that maybe in some areas are competitors come together and collaborate and learn and innovate at an accelerated pace in order for us to advance hydrogen as a climate solution within our economy. So, I think the big question often is, how many jobs? So what does what does this mean from a jobs perspective for the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub and beyond? And so while the study didn't focus on quantifying hydrogen employment, I'm pleased to say that that work is work that has continued and is leveraging the work that the Transition Accelerator's originally report. But what I do, what the work did do is create a tool that will allow people to understand better what the occupations might be, associated with the development of the hydrogen value chains, and some ideas as to what might be some of the key qualifications, unique qualifications, as it relates to hydrogen. So what I'd like to do, because this is really, a tool that you can leverage in your work, or if you're somebody who's trying to decide whether or not hydrogen might be a career opportunity for you, I'm going to quickly demonstrate how this tool works, and then you will be provided with a link to the Transition Accelerator's website, where you can find both the report and this tool. So I quickly have to stop sharing this and pull up this screen. And now hopefully this works for me. It wasn't working so well during the rehearsal. So this is what the tool looks like. It provides an introduction in terms of hydrogen, but also what's the purpose of this tool, gives a bit of an explanation in terms of how we're going to build out a low carbon hydrogen economy. And then you'll come to this page that really is sort of a opportunity to hone in on the specific kinds of workforce requirements you might be interested in learning more about. So again, if we think about job creation being aligned with the development of low carbon hydrogen value chains, in order to understand what those workforce requirements might look like, we really have to think about, so where is the investment, where is the activity going to be, and where are the projects? And so this is this particular tool, what you can do, and I'm going to use, within the Edmonton Hydrogen Hub, the Air Products Low Carbon Hydrogen Complex as an example. So since we know that the Air Products Hydrogen Complex is going to use autothermal reforming as its technology, we can use this link to take us to a more fulsome understanding or explanation of what ATR is, identify the specific core occupations associated with that technology, and therefore with that project that we know is currently under construction in the Edmonton region. And then it goes into much more detail around what the occupations are, the kinds of typical qualifications, key activities that occupation is involved in, and then those unique requirements for hydrogen. So, the intention of this tool is to, again, it could certainly help inform a career decision makers, understanding of where they might fit within the hydrogen economy. Post-secondary institutions can certainly use it in order to plan their programming, but also hydrogen hubs as they're developed, trying to understand, based on how they want to develop their hydrogen demand and supply value chains, what might be the workforce required. So again, we'll share that tool with you as a link. So the other thing that the report did, based on the key findings, was to really outline some recommendations for how we might manage workforce development and transition for the hydrogen economy. We know that advancing the hydrogen economy within the Edmonton region or anywhere, while there's significant opportunity, if we really don't manage what that proactively manage what that workforce development and transition looks like, we may find ourselves in a place where the workforce isn't readily available. And then that creates some issues, some competitive issues. And as Brent said, when companies, are looking to invest in the region, the availability of talent or the availability of programs to train the talent certainly can be a value add and a key consideration as companies consider whether or not this is a place to invest. So some of the things that were identified, within the report is, the need to create those learning opportunities to add hydrogen-related skills and knowledge to existing expertise. There's a need to build deeper talent pools by enhancing diversity and inclusion and attracting youth to the hydrogen industry. I mean, a big part of that is, to address the fact that we already have shortages in some of those core technical occupations required by the hydrogen industry. The ability to quantify hydrogen workforce demand and supply, and then promote the employment opportunities. And we know this is key as people are trying to understand whether or not this hydrogen might be a career for them. Having confidence based on, the production of numbers and workforce projections helps somebody, understand or decide whether or not that's an opportunity for them. And so know that Edmonton Global is leading some work around quantifying the hydrogen workforce. Also know that Careers in Energy is doing some work related to quantifying hydrogen requirements for the production of hydrogen. And finally, there's tremendous opportunity to build a brand as the hydrogen industry, as one that talent can come and work in and contribute to climate solutions. So these are some of the things that were tabled in the report as potential, recommendations or activities that can be implemented. And then, as I said, I'm very pleased to move into the next portion of this webinar, which really is speaking with Agatha and Kathleen about what they're doing to progress workforce development and transition. So I'm going to stop this and invite my co-panelists to join. And yeah, I'll just remind you, I'm going to start off. I have a few questions that I'm keen to ask Kathleen and Agatha, so I'm going to start off there. But please, please put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them shortly. What I thought a starting point might be, because we know that these webinars attract an audience from across Canada, even internationally. I think that it would be interesting, and Brent already introduced Kathleen and Agatha, but maybe just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about your institution and what you do and what your focus is. So Kathleen, do you want to start off and tell us a little bit more about Lakeland College?
Yes. So Lakeland, at Lakeland, we have a sustainable energy technology program, and we also offer micro-credentials. So as part of our micro-credentials, we've developed course, micro-credential, that's biofuel and bioenergy. And as part of this course lineup, there's a hydrogen course. So that fits in really well with this webinar. So that's basically my focus today, is to see how we can help for this, for the hydrogen industry, and how we can help maybe fulfill one of the skill gaps. So yeah, and to the risk of repeating what you just said, you know, that hydrogen is no more or less safe than any other fuel. Is just different. So it looks like the safety aspect and the understanding of regulations and codes and standards is very important. So I think we can fulfill this gap as far as this knowledge gap.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. Agatha, a little bit about NATE.
Yes. Hi. So NATE is a polytechnic, and one of the largest polytechnics in Canada. We have about 34,000 non-credit and credit students go through our programs on an annual basis. We offer applied training and applied research in different areas in the School of Skills Trades. And so if we're thinking hydrogen, if you think about heavy equipment technician programs, and in the applied sciences area, chemical engineering technology programs. So a wide variety of programming is offered at NATE. And we're excited to be very industry focused, so very engaged with industry to build programs that are needed. So yeah, that's NATE.
Great, thanks. And I think, you know, with how education has evolved, you know, a lot of it may be accelerated by COVID and stuff, you know, what you offer, even though you're here in the Edmonton region, really is an offering that could be taken advantage of by, you know, learners from just about anywhere, given, you know, how courses have evolved and, you know, are online and all of that kind of stuff. So fabulous, you know, resource. I'm curious, you know, in terms of, you know, reviewing the report and just even the little snippet of key findings that I shared, are there kind of one or two things that really resonate with you in terms of, you know, what's happening related to the development of the hydrogen industry and the workforce, and, you know, the development and transitioning of the workforce for it as well? Kathleen, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, like, that's a really good report, and it really gives a lot of information. So, and what I really like about it is that to hear that Alberta has the talent pool already. We have the skilled people that we need to embark this energy transition, which hydrogen economy is part of. And so I think what resonated with me is that we do have the talent pool, and there might be some skill gaps identified as far as, like I said earlier, you know, codes, the understanding of the regulations and codes related to that, and that also the infrastructure will also be impacted by the advancement of the hydrogen economy. And so infrastructure involves construction, inspection. So all of these skills already exist. So people need not to think that they need to go back to a full university program, or like that they have to change career completely. They already have what they need. They might just need to upskill with a short course or micro-credential, and then they can tackle on the hydrogen industry. They can easily transition into it. And so it's good to know that we have the talent pool. And also another key finding I found was that the desire from the industry to go beyond the required reporting for environmental compliance. So people are interested in to get expertise on climate solutions. So these, such as carbon accounting and emission calculations. So this is good to hear, because it also involves not just the specific technical skills, but it also involves like a broader set of skills as well. So there's lots of possibilities, and it was for me, that's what resonated the most with the report.
Yeah, you raised some great points in terms of the broad range of opportunities and occupations. The hydrogen economy, the kinds of jobs and the number of jobs that will be generated across a variety of occupations really provides an opportunity for a number of people to be involved. And what you said was very interesting, because I didn't really hit on it, but the fact that we can talk about hydrogen or other climate solutions, but there is a desire from a regulatory perspective, from a stakeholder perspective, from a public perspective, that we're also proving that we're a climate solution. And that's where, some of that regulatory reporting, carbon accounting, that kind of stuff comes in. So excellent, thanks. Agatha, what about you? Were there a couple of things that sort of just resonated for you?
Yeah. So it's similar to what Kathleen said. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, so that's great. And micro-credentialing and upskilling is more what we should focus on. So that is really good to know. Like that, the majority of our programs, if you think about power engineering and instrumentation, they provide students and people with the basic skills that they need, and those skills are transferable. So figuring out what the micro-credentialing, like what those specific competency needs are, and just providing that to people, I think that's great. The other thing that I think is great is how you spoke about accelerating how we get there. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Experiential learning, work integrated learning, that accelerates learning a great deal. So yeah, those are the two things for me.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. I love seeing how, your two institutions, and I know there's others that have really kind of, understood what's required to accelerate things and really putting that into motion.
Yeah.
Agatha, I'm maybe going to start with you and just, what else are you hearing from employers regarding the hydrogen skills they need? What do they want from their workers?
Great question. So first of all, I just want to say it's been really great working with industry on this topic, because there's been a lot of collaboration. And I know you said that in your report, but like I'm a living testament of that. We've had a lot of people connect us to, like you speak to one person about, oh, what do you think the training need is? And then they tell you, oh, no, maybe you should connect with X. And then they're making introductions. And we had this advisory panel meeting where people from different industries came together to identify competency needs. I think I must just mention that is fantastic, and that it's great that people are working together. So what we figured is that there is micro-credentialing need for people to understand the hydrogen economy and hydrogen safety and production. Many companies, some big companies already provide like internal training when it comes to hydrogen production and transportation and things like that. But then we're thinking about how we scale that and make that knowledge available to people who want to transition into this sector. So for me, yes, that's a knowledge of the hydrogen economy and the different facets of the value chain. But I must just mention here that it's been great just working with different people from different organizations to make that happen.
That's fabulous. And I think what it helps to do is, as somebody who's considering, taking a micro-credential or whatever, if you know that that's been developed by a cross-section of industry players, that's got to create confidence that this is hitting the mark. It's not a specific company that's looking for specific things. It is, broadly applied across the industry. So that's fabulous.
Yeah.
What about you, Kathleen? What are you hearing from employers or around, what the kinds of skills are required? Anything different than what we've sort of chatted about thus far?
Yeah, so I think if I might add something to this is that the employers nowadays are looking for people with technical expertise, but they're also willing to invest in people that are a good fit or have the right philosophy. And that's very important to know, because they're looking for the right person that has the same culture and values and those soft skills and the attitude that they're looking for in an employee. So they'll be willing to invest in those employees to get them to where they need to be as far as technical skills. People can learn technical skills. So if they're a right fit for the company, then there's a desire from industry to help out with that. So this is great.
I just want to pick up on that because, I think that we know technical skills are much easier to measure, maybe, more defined in terms of how we train for those or learn those. What about those softer skills or, those kinds of skills that, allow you to sort of function well within different cultures, especially when we're talking about one that's, about innovation and collaboration? How can somebody, who's looking to, progress their career, build those soft skills or attain those soft skills? Kathleen, I'm going back to you.
Yes.
Because you said it.
Yes. So for sure, like there's many coaches that can help people improve on their soft skills if you feel like you need to brush up on that. There's many online trainings, of course, that are available out there. We all have them. But also to develop your network is a really important thing, and joining clubs or volunteering are really great ways to develop your network and practice your soft skills, and that will provide you lots of value in the long run. And of course, you could always find a mentor. That's always a good way. But yeah, those are some of the ideas that I can share.
What about you, Agatha? Thoughts on building out those soft skills that are so important to, building a resilient career?
Yeah. So when I hear soft skills, what comes to my mind is communication. But I do think that it goes deeper beyond communication. So understanding our biases, learning about culture and intercultural competencies, and learning about like indigenous perspectives. I think that has helped me, and I'm speaking from a very personal perspective. Communication is key, but we can go beyond that. We can think about workplace integration and courses like that. So there are courses, like Kathleen has said, that can teach you about that. So I actually took a course on intercultural competence to learn about that indigenous perspectives. So we can do that so that we're more aware and we can, relate with people in the workplace better. And that brings me to something else that Nate's doing. So we're launching this international PD certificate that will see professionals from abroad coming to the clean energy sector. What we've done is that we've incorporated soft skills training into those courses that will teach them about the Canadian workplace culture and cross-cultural competence and things like that. I do strongly believe that soft skills should be part of our regular training, and we're doing that. So yeah.
Excellent. That's so good to hear. And, again, just it fits well with that thought that, in order to address just the shortages, having enough of some of these occupations, we need to expand the talent pools that we're attracting to the industry. And so, that diversity and equity and, as you say, sometimes that's so built around our biases, our unconscious biases, and just not necessarily understanding some of those intercultural things. And so that will go a long way in terms of, optimizing our labor force. So that's fabulous.
Great.
I think before we have some questions coming in, and that's awesome. I think before we go there into the questions, I thought I'd like to give you both an opportunity to just tell us a little bit more about the programming that you are doing that's related to hydrogen, because that could be one of the questions that the audience is asking about, is some of those details and some of those specifics. So I know that I'm going to pull up the slides again that we've prepared for that, and I think Kathleen, I'm going to give you the first opportunity to, share a little bit more details about your hydrogen training.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you very much for the opportunity. So basically, we have this one hydrogen course that we're offering. It can be offered on demand. We've offered it for the first time this year and just ended a few weeks ago. So what we cover in this course is the hydrogen as an energy carrier, the production, generation, and conversion, storage and transport, end-use applications, safety regulations and codes, futures of hydrogen, and at the end of the course, we have a project case study. So it's a fairly, and this is where you have actually a chance to practice on those soft skills at the end, because the project is kind of a little bit of a capstone at the end. So it's a great course. It's offered online. It's asynchronous, so it's a 45 hours equivalent, similar to a 3 credits course, and it's offered over in 8 weeks. So there's no prerequisite to take the course. What's great about it is that it can lead to a bioenergy and biofuel micro-credential certification. So it's part of our course series for that renewable gas certification that we have. So if you are looking into more after, or you could take this course as a standalone. So if you, that might be, and this is perfect for someone who's, just needs that extra skill in hydrogen specifically. They already have a set of skill that, they're depending where you are in where you're at in your career, but you just need to know about the hydrogen specifically to be able to move on with your career. So this is, so next slide is, I'm going quickly here because you can read all that later. But anyways, I just thought this was a great testimonial from one of the students who took the course recently. So Ellie is an engineer. She took this course. Her background is oil and gas. So I just thought like her testimony was really good about, she says that she found the course very informative and comprehensive, and the course content covered almost all aspects of the hydrogen life cycle, from generation, production to transportation, storage, safety, and applicable regulatory codes and best practices. She said the course duration, schedule, and evaluations were convenient and to accommodate a busy schedule for working students. So of course she was working while she took this course, and she was able to fit it in her schedule, which is great. And also something that I didn't mention, but she also said the instructor is knowledgeable, supportive, and responsive. So this course, even though it's asynchronous, you have the assistance of an instructor to assist for the learning with weekly live lectures. So you're not left alone trying to learn this. It's assisted by an instructor. And so she recommends this course to anyone who's looking for a crash course on latest technologies related to hydrogen life cycle. So basically she said it better than I could have. So I just really liked her testimonial, and I thought that what better than somebody who's taken the course to talk about it. And so if you're interested with it, my contact info is at the bottom. Get in touch with me, and we can make that happen.
Perfect. Thanks, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
And Agatha,
Yes, we'll
quick
power through
rundown
this
of-
really quickly. So what I have to say is that most of these micro credentials, you can skip to the next slide. Majority of them are in development. And I have the timeline for when we expect that they will be completed here. I'm not going to go through it all in detail because we have 1 minute, but these are the topics we're working on: hydrogen economy, life cycle assessment, and carbon accounting, and covering topics in safety, transportation, production, and storage. You can skip to the next one. Yes, this is really exciting. Like the hydrogen fuel cell technician one, majority of these, we're going to be working with industry stakeholders to make it happen anyway. So we're just excited that we're going to be rolling these out soon. Next slide. yes, the carbon capture courses, we're excited also that we're going to be rolling these out soon. We're working with Carbon Management Canada to get them ready, hopefully for September. Next slide. And hydrogen refueling and refueling control systems. We also think that there is a need for people to get these skills, and we will roll these out next year. If you have any questions about this, my email will be made available at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks to both of you. And yes, just to this, I think it's already been mentioned, the slides and contact information will be available for anybody who wants to reach out and gather more information about what's happening at Lakeland College and NATE. So let's see what our audience is asking. A question about sort of the leadership that we're going to need in order to create this new industry, and cannot rely on the government to lead. I think, and he directed the question to myself, but I honestly think that both Kathleen and Agatha will have something to add here too. I mean, I think that we will need great leadership, but I think we also have to remember that Alberta, and certainly the Edmonton region, has been producing and using hydrogen for decades. And so it's not totally new for us. It certainly is, but in terms of that leadership around what are the incentives, what are the, sort of supports, the regulatory environment, the supports around what needs to happen in order to advance the hydrogen economy. Absolutely, we certainly do need that. And we can't necessarily rely just on governments, because governments change. And, and with that, comes sometimes uncertainty and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's why you have groups like the Edmonton Region Hydrogen HUB and all the work that Brent and his team at the Edmonton Global is doing. So I feel like we have some really strong leadership in terms of progressing hydrogen. I don't know if Agatha or Kathleen have anything to add to that from their experience.
I agree with you on that. Alberta has been producing hydrogen for many years, and hopefully good leaders can come from within us or from among us. So yeah, in terms of there are leadership courses, and I must say there are courses that you can take to hone in on your leadership skills, and we can definitely prepare people who are interested in being leaders and in taking those courses. Happy to provide more information on that after the webinar.
Yeah.
From my side of things, I think it's a sideways move. Wherever you are, if you're in a conventional oil and gas, you can easily move sideways into the hydrogen. The leadership's already there, it's already existing. We already have great talent pool. So from my perspective is just apply on those jobs. If you are middle management or higher management, just go for it and just, if you feel there's a little bit of a skill gap, there's courses available, but otherwise we all know that at the management level, it's a sideways move. It's an easy sideways move. So.
Yeah, and I would just, Brent, who, kicked us off on this webinar. I don't know how many, you can certainly add to this. I don't know how many air miles you've collected in the last year or two in terms of, promoting the opportunity here. But if you want to add anything, please do.
Well, the one I was going to mention, when you talk about leadership, the one thing we've recognized also, we have a lot of existing companies in the Edmonton region that have been focused, I'll say historically, in oil and gas and energy and even other sectors. And we're trying to see, well, in some cases, they may want to make that pivot, but it might require some shifts in their own leadership, how they approach the opportunity. So as a bit of another initiative, that's all part of what I'm calling our broader supply chain initiative, is working with Mount Royal University on a new hydrogen innovation accelerator, really building off an existing model that they've been using a bit more generally, but recognizing hydrogen may require a bit of a very focused approach around that. So if some of you are with companies that are interested in exploring that opportunity, you already have a revenue stream, but you might want to be looking at hydrogen as a potentially new revenue stream, then please reach out. It's the Hydrogen Innovation Accelerator operated through Mount Royal University's Growth Compass program. But anyway, we can provide more information on that if you're interested.
Yeah. And Brent, you might as well stay on the line, because I think I think this next question also, you may have something to add in terms of, what about a community that's close to Edmonton that may be interested in the different opportunities associated with hydrogen development?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of communities are beginning to think a bit more. What does that opportunity look like? It could be on production, but it could also be on, end use. It could be using hydrogen in the mobility sector, and you may be along some key corridors. So we're interested in some of those communities as new hydrogen refueling infrastructure is put into place over the coming years. We're getting moving on that within the Edmonton region. So certainly, we are reaching out to all of our shareholders within Edmonton Global. We have 14 municipalities that we work closely with. But if you're not one of those 14, you're still within the broader Edmonton region, I'd be interested in chatting with you as well. But I think it's understanding, what is the opportunity, what's most appropriate for the region. Our attributes are, access to natural gas, access to carbon capture and storage capabilities. But that's not all of it. There's many other attributes that are also of interest depending on where you're fitting along that entire hydrogen value chain. So yeah, definitely, we think all communities should be starting to think a bit about where they fit in and how they can benefit from this hydrogen opportunity.
Yeah. And then the second part of that question was, around, is there an inventory of skills, that may be one of those sort of value propositions to provide companies that are considering hydrogen projects. This is the opportunity to tap into a talent pool that could fit your needs. And I'm not aware of sort of a skills inventory that way, at that level of detail. I think there certainly is. I think even the report talks about the potential opportunity to leverage the skills based on our existing industries and how that could be leveraged, along with the post-secondary training that does exist to entice, hydrogen investment, because we do have that solid foundation. But again, Brent, I don't know if you have anything more to add there.
No, I mean, I think we're looking at all of those inputs for our enablers for investment, everything from the fiscal regime, some shifts in how the government is looking at things as well. And often we're seeing a lot of new, requirements even to meet some of the funding requirements that the federal governments puts out, for example, on, the workforce. So I think having continuing to look at that and seeing, how do we fit into some of those expectations where there's some gaps that we want to address. Think again, marginalized communities that maybe, would like to be more involved in the opportunities moving forward. But again, that's just one component of it. And I think we need to look at the entire piece, looking at the infrastructure we need to have in place to support these future projects. And that's really what the hub is about, is, let's kind of think for the future a little bit. Let's kind of put that enabling infrastructure in, which will support, future production projects, the transportation of hydrogen, and ultimately the use. And, I get excited even beyond the use itself, but some of the other value add pieces around, let's say, manufacturing of some of the unique equipment that might be relevant. And again, building off of our capabilities that we've developed over the years in fabrication and manufacturing for oil and gas. Well, a lot of that could also be quite useful in hydrogen.
Excellent, thanks. And here's a question that I think both Kathleen and Agatha may be interested in weighing in on. Building out or advancing our hydrogen economy definitely needs infrastructure. There's been lots of concerns raised about whether or not we have that construction workforce to really build out what we need here. And, I think this has probably been an ongoing, issue that both your institutions have been, has been top of mind. can you maybe comment on, how do we go about addressing just this issue of needing the potential to need huge volumes of work to build out the infrastructure required?
I'm happy to take a first stab at that. I'm not saying I don't have the answers in any way, but this is it's a real issue. And volume, we will need people to build these infrastructure, but we don't have so many of them. So right now we're figuring out ways to attract talent. And the government is playing a role here as well. So we have received different kinds of funding to encourage people into the trades programs. So the government is funding the accelerated trades programs that will encourage new people in the trades, and the construction trades is part of that. We're trying to get women into the trades. So we've also received funding to encourage women by providing them with subsidies and things that will encourage more people to get into the trades, because that is really important. And we're also looking at attracting talent from abroad. So when we offer international, like we're offering an international PD certificates in construction, this will encourage people who have construction backgrounds from outside of Canada to bring their transferable skills in here, and we'll provide them with the basic training that they need so they can support the amazing initiatives that are coming up in Alberta here. So it's a team effort. It's not one thing that one post-secondary or one company can do all by themselves, but it's Edmonton Global, it's the government, it's the PSIs, it's everyone coming together to support Alberta's workforce. Yeah.
Thanks, Agatha. Kathleen,
Yes.
any thoughts?
Well, I agree with what Agatha is saying. It's we need to attract talents in the region to help building all this infrastructure, and I mean it can be various. It can come from various paths, right? Like different provinces. Anytime the oil and gas industry goes down, like we see like a shift in like people moving back east, or so maybe we can keep those talents here, all year, and just continue building on to what all the talent that we have here, and retain people in the province, and advance the industry that way by keeping our talent here and attracting more talent. That's all I can add.
Yeah, that attracting new talent pools is, so important. And, I love what you're saying around, what industry is doing around collaborating to, advance, the supply chains. Really, sort of the education, the talent ecosystem also needs to collaborate in order to address some of these issues. No single institution, no single company, no single organization can really kind of tackle everything that needs to be done. And so, I really like that notion of, let's replicate what industry is doing to make this happen as a talent or education sort of ecosystem. And I think, on that note, we're going to have to, close things off. There is a comment about engaging and educating youth about the opportunities. I almost think we could do a whole other, webinar on, just how do we do that? How do we expand, the talent pool that we're drawing from for this particular industry and advancing hydrogen in Edmonton and beyond. So with that note, I'd like to conclude today's webinar. Thanks so very much to Kathleen, Agatha, and for Brent, hopping in and sharing your insights and helping answer audience questions. Again, the recording is going to be available on the Edmonton Region Hydrogen HUB's website and YouTube tomorrow, so you can certainly access it there. Just want to say that our next webinar will be on June 20th, and it's the second part of the Hydrogen 101 series, which will focus on hydrogen use in the transportation industry, and that'll be hosted by Dr. David Lizelle. stay in the loop around future webinars by joining the mailing list on erh2.ca or follow the hub on Twitter or LinkedIn. And thanks again to our panelists, to our hosts, and for everybody who participated in the webinar. Thanks again.